All right, I believe I'm on part 3 of my series, Communism is Total Foolishness. And today, more quotes from Karl Marx from his book, The Communist Manifesto, which is actually a retitled version. Apparently, the original title of the book was The Manifesto of the Communist Party. And then they later retitled it to something shorter, Communist Manifesto. But, okay, so, all right. Communism is about destroying personal freedom and independence and destroying the family unit. So I'm going to talk about that. Talk about stupid demonic political ideology. These are all direct quotes from the Communist Manifesto. Here we go. Karl Marx said, "Abolition of individuality and freedom, and rightly so. Abolition of individuality and freedom, and rightly so." And then later on he says, abolition of bourgeois individuality. That's bourgeois. It's a word for middle class and upper class. Abolition of bourgeois individuality, bourgeois independence, and bourgeois freedom is undoubtedly aimed at. Okay, so basically entrepreneurship, family businesses, personal financial freedom, personal financial independence. He wants to do away with that. In other words, he wants to do away with the American dream. That's what the American dream is, traditionally, and he wants to destroy that. So Karl Marx, communism is anti-American dream. It is anti-entrepreneurship. It is anti-family business. It is anti-middle and upper class. It wants everybody to be lower class. It wants everybody to be lower class and not have their own family businesses. It wants everybody to be a lower class, blue-collar worker working in a factory. It wants everyone to be a lower class, blue-collar worker working in a government-owned factory. That's the goal of communism. Okay? Dr. Rice summarizes it like this. Basically, what communists are saying is, let's get a few working people and put them in charge, make them into dictators, like Stalin or Hitler, and take the freedom away from everybody who owns any property as well as their profits. The plan is to put people in the greatest bondage possible. In other words, it's a Book of Exodus scenario. It is slavery to Pharaoh. It is exactly what it is. Dr. V. Raymond Edman summarized it like this. The individual, the middle class owner of property, must indeed be swept out of the way. So that's the first thing. It is communism is against the American dream. It is against personal individuality and freedom and independence. It is against financial independence achieved through entrepreneurship. It is against success. Communism is against the whole concept of success. It is an anti-success ideology. Okay? Are you understanding me? Communism is total foolishness. The next thing communism does is it seeks to undermine the family unit. It doesn't like moms, dads, and kids. It tries to destroy families. It actually is calculated at this point because families want to create family businesses, and that is antithetical to communism. And so it goes against families. Karl Marx said in the Communist Manifesto, abolition of the family. The bourgeois claptrap about the family and education, about the hallowed correlation of parent and child, becomes all the more disgusting. Quote, end quote. The more you entertain communism. You see that? He's against the middle class family. He's against that. He insults it with words. This whole concept of a middle-class family and parents raising their kids to send them off to college. He's against all that. He is against that. Abolition of the family, exclamation point, Karl Marx says in the Communist Manifesto. Abolition of the family. In other words, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Destroy the family unit. Oh, what happens to all the women? What happens to the wives and daughters? Karl Marx says in the Communist Manifesto, quote, the community of women. It has existed almost from time immemorial. Let me translate that. Dr. Rice helps me to translate that. The community of women, it has existed almost from time immemorial, Karl Marx said in the Communist Manifesto. In other words, making women property of everybody and passing the women around. You turn the women into prostitutes. He wanted to legalize prostitution. Karl Marx was trying to communicate that, although this message did not come through very clearly, because apparently he didn't very much elaborate on the point. So the big-time communist countries who tried to implement Karl Marx's ideas, those countries were the USSR, Communist Russia, Communist China, Communist Cuba, Communist North Korea, Vietnam, Laos. They made prostitution illegal. So that's a point where they disagreed with Marx on. They did not implement his desire to make prostitution legal. In fact, the only countries today where prostitution is 100% legal across the country is Germany and the Netherlands. And although they are capitalist countries, they do have a history of Marxist movements. And in the United States and in Australia, there are certain districts or areas where prostitution is legal. The entire state of Nevada in the United States, prostitution is legal in that state, provided that prostitution is conducted in a legally approved brothel. It's the same story in Australia. None of these are communist countries, but the idea of legalizing prostitution is a Marxist idea and is explicitly expressed in the Communist Manifesto. The community of women has existed almost from time immemorial, says Karl Marx. So he wants to destroy the family unit and turn women into a bunch of communist prostitutes. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do. So, does that sound like a great idea or what? Sounds like a nightmare. Sounds like a horror movie. Sounds like the words of a man who sold his soul to the devil. Karl Marx.